Hey everybody, Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country here on Fish Creek Radio. The Birth of the Bakersfield Sound book is just wonderfully written, and it pays homage to so many of the legends of the Bakersfield Sound, both in front of and behind the scenes. And to read a quote, the story shines a light on the unsung heroes of the era, such as the musicians, disc jockeys, radio and television stations, clubs and club owners, and fans. And I'm very happy to have the author of this book with me today. He is also a tremendously great singer and songwriter and has written some fabulous songs for some big names that we're going to talk about. Please welcome Lawton Jiles to My Kind of Country. Lawton, how you doing today?
Pretty good, Scott. Yeah, pretty good.
Thank
it's a
you.
beautiful day here, so we're enjoying that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking time to do the show today. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Well, you're welcome.
Well, first of all, I want to talk about a little about your book. Tell me how the idea came to you to put this wonderful book together.
Well, it's just folks and people that we know would ask you questions, and they'd talk about it, and just it was just interest to everyone, and so many of the people that I talked about were friends and that I had worked with and knew, and that's the way it came about. And then one day I was thinking about it, talked to some friends, and I was just thinking somebody should write a story about how this began. And then it occurred to me, and in fact I was talking to my granddaughter about it. I said, we should write a book about the birth of it. And that's about as simple as it came about.
Well, there's been a lot of attention given to the Bakersfield Sound here recently, obviously with the passing of Merle Haggard.
Right.
Bear Family Records is working on I think it's an 11 CD box set of the early Bakersfield Sound years. So this book will go hand in hand with that. You can read the book and then you can get a hold of the music too.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting, and I've talked to so many people since Merle's passing about the beginning and how that he just kept climbing, kept working, going through all this, and just dedicated every day of his life to his music, his writing, his traveling, his playing, and just it's just amazing. Of course, that wore him out. There's no question about that. But he devoted everything he had to what we now call Bakersfield music.
You are absolutely right about that. Absolutely.
I can remember when he started out as just a young boy, he's probably 18, 19 years old, just sitting in where he could, trying to. He just wanted to sing and play and learn, and he would sing Lefty Frizzell songs,
Oh yeah.
And to remember that and see where you wound up is just a hero to not only to fans that wanted to hear a song, but musicians as well. And even to a man, to accomplish something, he was a hero, he died. So we miss him terribly.
Absolutely.
Going to miss him more because he was the greatest. I used to say that about Hank Williams, and he was a mighty man in country music, and he was the guy. But yet, he doesn't measure up to Merle.
I would have to agree with you
Right,
there.
for you.
Yep, I would have to agree with you on that one, no doubt about it. Well, folks, this book is available at Amazon.com. It's called The Birth of the Bakersfield Sound, and there's also a website that we will put on our Facebook page, The Birth of the Bakersfield Sound.tateauthor.com. And I highly encourage you to pick up this book if you're interested in learning more about country music history. This is a must-have. Lawton, you're certainly a very big part of this whole thing, too. Tell me about your career.
Well, first of all, thank you, Scott, for talking about the book and introducing. I appreciate that. How my career, as such as it was, my mom and dad were kind of folk singers, but they did most of the work in the gospel field, And my dad played guitar, not accomplished, but he played guitar. Well, they both played guitar, but he taught was, probably 9 or 10 years old, I started picking on the guitar. So it started then, and just grew. And coming into the music around Bakersfield, at that time I lived in Delano, California, and the radio was so big in those days. There was so many stations around there that played country music, and you learned those songs. The songs had stories, and that affected me greatly. I wanted to hear those stories, and I wanted to tell those stories. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I got into it. Just loving it.
Well, you also worked with Buck Owens in his early days, right?
Yeah, and sometime earlier, my first recording was on Bakersfield Records, mm-hmm. and Buck had been on there too, and it was just a small local label. But I met the guy that was promoting it, and he asked me if I'd show him some songs, and in other words, if he liked the songs, he would record me too. And I showed him a couple of songs, and he said okay, and he called in some musicians, and some of them were, of course, Buck Owens was a guitar player, and two or three others. The drummer that used to be with Bob Wills, he was called in. So several guys that went on to be, 3 or 4 of them that went on to be stars in Bakersfield, played on my record too. And this is where I got acquainted with Johnny Cubbiello was a drummer, if you ever heard that name.
I sure have.
He was with Bob Wills, and he wrote and played the Texas Drummer Boy, and that's the way I got into it. And after that, I would play, days here and there at this club or that club, and I would meet these guys. Some of them later become Bakersfield stars that were known. So that's the way I got into it. I was never one to reach out. I never promoted myself as a singer. I didn't want to travel. I learned right away I didn't want to travel.
Yeah.
So, but where I got with Buck, I'd known him all those years, and I was playing at a place there in Bakersfield, and it was called Doc's Club. And me and Larry Petrie, a guy named Bill Garner, 2 or 3 of us were playing here. And one night, I got a note, and I looked at the note, and I said, Buck Owens here. And he was just getting started on Capitol then. And he said, Buck would like to talk to you on your break, but he doesn't want anybody to know he's here. So at break time, we kind of huddled in the corner, and he said, I'm going to he was with the blackboard then. He said, I'm going to leave the blackboard, and I'm going to start a band in Fresno. Now, we're in Bakersfield. He said, well, I'm going to start a band. That's going to be my home base, and I want to start a band. And he said, I would like for you to lead my band. Well, this was big news, because I had my own little group. And I said, well, thank you. That's because we were good friends. We'd been friends a long time. I said, let me think about it, and I'll get back with you on Monday. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, I knew Buck. Buck was always a businessman, and he was clean. There was no drinking. There was nothing going on. He didn't allow that in his band. And all the things that I liked, I called him on Monday, found out who all was going to be in the band, and I said, I'll do it. And that's the way I became the band leader of Bucks. And he just started on Capitol, and not had any big hits or anything then. And I was with him there almost 2 years. I would play the dates, California, along the coast, and all that, but I didn't want to travel with him. He knew that. And so then when he really hit the big time, then Lawton Jiles was out.
Well, Lawton, that brings up a really good point. I've talked to so many artists from Bakersfield, folks like Red Simpson and Billy Mize, and a lot of people may not know those names as well as they do know the names of Buck Owens and Merle Haggard. However, those people, in my eyes, are every bit as important to what was going on at that time, and the evolution of the Bakersfield Sound. But you guys all made choices that you didn't want to travel on the road, and you had families, and that's a very respectable thing. And just because you chose that and didn't go on the road doesn't make you any less of a star in my eyes, and I think a lot of my listeners will agree with that.
Well, you would understand if you were there or see it, or you knew people that did that, and I kind of wanted to write, I wanted to write, and I certainly didn't want to leave my family. I had a young family. At that time, I had one. My second son was just born, so I just did not want to do that. But still, you played a part. All of the other guys too. Where it was Simpson or Billy Mize or all of these people, we supported each other, and that was so big in the Bakersfield, so-called Bakersfield Sound, and the sound was not the thing then. It was just music,
Sure.
And the sound came when Buck had his first couple of hits, and I think you know where the sound came from. It came from Buck, but not from Buck. It came from the steel player, Ralph Mooney.
That's right.
He played the steel in a whole different way, and he would hit those single strings, and where a steel guitar you would usually hit full notes.
Yeah, I was talking to Norm Hamlet about him last night, and he said the same thing. He when he first hired on with Merle, he had to learn how to set his steel guitar up like Ralph Mooney did, so he could hit those licks.
Yeah, and he could do it too. And another guy in Bakersfield, Larry Petrie, he played with me for years. We still play some things together. He could do that too. So when guys would come in, but Ralph Mooney, he played in a band with Wynn Stewart, and that's a whole other story with Wynn Stewart. But that's where, in my opinion, the Bakersfield Sound came about. It was a steel guitar, and it was totally different than anybody else was doing.
I think you're absolutely right.
And you had the Bakersfield Sound. I played a lot of dates with him, if I can add this to it. And we used to play dates where we'd have several stars, in the show, from George Jones. We might have 4 or 5 in the show. Well, and Ralph was playing steel for everybody, but he was used to clubs where you'd have a break every hour, every 2 hours. You'd have 5 or 10 minute break. Oh boy, he would fuss because we had to go from one star to the next. And he'd fuss at me because I was the leader introducing everybody. Yeah. He'd really get mad at me, and I'd say, "Okay, talk to Buck." Ask Buck. It's not me. Ask Buck.
That's truly passing the buck.
Laugh about that.
That's funny.
That was kind of a side story, but it's funny and part of the program. But he was a mighty steel guitar player and added a lot to Buck's success.
He certainly did. I have a lot of respect for Larry Petrie too. Larry's an awesome, and still is an awesome steel player.
Yeah. He's still involved. I talked to him a few days ago, and in fact, I'm supposed to see him next weekend, but it's not going to work out. But yeah, he's recognized by anybody that goes through there today. They want him around.
Oh yeah, I can understand that. Well, Lawton, you wrote a lot of great songs. As I was kind of reading up on you, I I came across all these Patsy Cline songs that you wrote and co-wrote with Buster Beam, and my gosh, T. Texas Tyler, Porter Wagner, Norma Jean, Janie Fricke have all recorded your songs, and you've got a pretty impressive songwriting career under your belt too.
You know, and still, even today, it still works out. There's a girl named Houston. Maybe you're playing her records, Tracy Houston.
Yeah,
and she recorded one of my songs called "How Got Face Tomorrow," and it was #1 on the top 40 charts in Europe, and it's still, I think it's #4 last week or so. But the song is doing really, really good in Europe, and you know, so they still pick these up.
Well, my overseas listeners will definitely know that. I have a lot of people in Europe that listen to our show, so they will definitely have heard that song for sure.
Yeah, so country music's got to be grateful for Europe, you know, because the stations here are doing something different. But I guess Europe's still playing. Still playing that country stuff.
Yes, they are. They're keeping it alive. There's no doubt about it. And there's a lot of young artists coming up in the United States too that are doing traditional country, and I've had a lot of them on my show, and I'm so glad to see that.
Me too.
I even interviewed a lady from New Zealand whose name is Siobhan, and she has just put out a stone cold country album, and I think it's just amazing. You know, and she's in her 20s, and I think it's just fabulous.
Really, it's just wonderful, you know, because the steel guitar and the fiddle, you know, it's just left out. But now you hear some of these young guys coming up and doing this stuff, so it's really heartwarming to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, you know, the music, and I go back to the songwriting. That's where the key is, and it's the songs, and it's what gives, you know, the songs the longevity that it's going to keep an artist out there. You know, a lot of the stuff today is what I call throwaway music. You know, it's a fad, and it's, you know, it comes and goes. But that's, you know, that's fine. But this stuff's going to be around. Tell me about all these. Tell me about all these Patsy Cline songs. How did Patsy get in contact with you, and tell me that story if you wouldn't mind.
Well, and the Buster Beam that you see on those records, there's 3 names: Buster, my name, and then there's another name on there. It's not Stewart. I forget what the other name is, but that's a pseudonym. It's none person there. It just was a fund that we had for paying for demos and, you know, stuff like that. My goodness, I can't even think what that name is. Buster was a brother-in-law, and he was kind of the pitch man. He was the one that would sell these songs, and he would write too. His forte was titles. He was good at titles, you know. But that's where he came in. He's passed away now, but he knew some people that knew Patsy, and that's how it all came about. You know, it's like anything else. Who you know helps out. You know.
Yeah, that's right, and that's still true today.
Yeah, and then I knew some of the players with her. You know, that like Randy, that was her manager. I'd worked a lot of shows with him, so all that helped. And she liked the stuff. She liked those stories, you know, that we were doing, and that made it easy. Yeah, my wife just reminded me that the name is W.S. Stevenson. That's not a person. It was just a pseudonym.
Oh, okay. She beat me to it. I was looking through my records to try to find one.
But you know, and she liked the songs, and that made everything easier. So it was always surprising that she did 6. We had another song, and if I can take a minute here, she had another song that might be interesting to the story. That had the same melody as "How Can I Face Tomorrow," and it was a Christmas song, which she wanted a Christmas song. So we sat down and I worked for quite a while getting this song together. Stopped by a radio station, gathered around the console, and recorded a little demo. Sent it to her Christmas song because we were pressed for time. And she loved it, but she loved the melody. But the record company says, well, you have such a short time to sell a Christmas song, so let's record something else. So she recorded one of the other songs, but she still she liked that melody, and she wrote a note back. She called everybody Hoss, give me a country song. So How Can I Face Tomorrow came about.
I'll be darned.
And then to finish that story, she never recorded the Christmas song, but a girl here in California that lives up on the desert now recorded that song and released it in Europe, and it's called Christmas Without You.
I'll be darned.
The same melody, and it went to number one. Won 50 awards in Europe.
That's cool. That's cool.
So that's a backdoor story, but that's music. That's the way things happen.
If you write a popular Christmas song, you're guaranteed a hit once a year.
That's true. Well, that was my argument. It comes back next year.
That's right.
So, but they didn't listen to me, of course. But anyway, it all worked out, and Patsy's death was very large to us. It affected in many ways, and of course Randy Hughes was a friend. I didn't know the other guys, but I did know Cowboy Copas. He was a father-in-law to Randy, and I'd done a lot of shows with Cowboy, but I didn't know Hawkshaw. I'd never done a show with him, so it took me some time to get over that plane crash. I tell you, even now I don't like it.
Yeah, that was a big loss for country music at that time.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Lawton, you've recorded some great songs of your own. Now, you were on King Records back in the early 60s, and a couple songs I've played on my show quite a bit are You're Not That Easy to Forget, and That's What I Get for Loving You. I love those songs.
Yeah. Those have stayed steady for all these years. That's What I Get for Loving You has been recorded several times. Carl Ballou always liked that song, and very, very, very fortunate.
Absolutely.
And those, and us guys in Bakersfield, I don't know where we got that from, but we all wrote story songs. Merle did, Fuzzy Owen did. He was the manager of Merle for many years. So there was a few of us, that would write story songs, and some would write drinking songs. Of course, country music takes in all of that. But and Buster, that's the bean on there. He liked story songs, so he would always have a good title, that would get me enthused about a song, and I was the melody creator because I played the guitar. So you have techniques, you have motivation, you have all of those things, that you look for, practice, and hope for.
Well, Lawton, are you still doing any recording and performing at all?
I do performing. I don't do any recording. Just once in a while on a new song. But I play different dates around. We just did a big show up on the desert here, a tribute to Patsy Cline, which was very interesting. And I do quite a bit of stuff in Bakersfield because I'm a member of the Bakersfield Country Music Hall of Fame there, and they have Dust Bowl days, and 4 times a year the Hall of Fame has a big doing. So I do quite a bit in there, although I'm from some distance from there. I'm in Southern California, but I have a lot of family up there, so I do a show and visit family.
Oh, perfect. That's the way to do it.
and I kind of do whatever I do music-wise is always fun. So it's not, I started saying I just do fun things, but I pick and choose.
Well, that's great. That's great. And George Highfield recorded an album of your songs too recently.
I just got a note on that. In fact, I have several people have called about it. I'm not sure what he recorded.
Yeah, I don't have a copy of it yet, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
That's really fantastic. He's a great artist too. I like his music.
I've known him for a long time. He's a nice guy.
Well, folks, again, it's the Birth of the Bakersfield Sound, and you can get it at Amazon.com or the Birth of the Bakersfield Sound.tateauthor.com. Highly recommend this book, folks. And Lawton, Jiles, it's been a pleasure to have you on My Kind of Country. Thank you so much for being on and sharing your stories.
Thank you, Scott. And I hope that you have a lot of listeners. I hope that grows, and I hope you continue that show because, we need it. And the people deserve it. And there's nothing like country music can lift lift you up. You hear a story about somebody else that's hit bottom, it'll pick you up. Amen
to that. All right.
So that's story of life, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawton. I appreciate it. We're gonna.
Wait just a minute. What? Oh, that's my wife talking. She wants some information of where you are.
All right, I'll get you.
What time your shows are.
We'll get you all that here in just a second. We're going to play one of Patsy Cline's songs that was written by our guest tonight. This is "How Can I Face Tomorrow" as we continue with My Kind of Country. Thanks again, Lawton.